Hey all, my name's Kelsey. I live in Bakersfield, California, and just recently I completed a new vivarium for my Panther Chameleons. In here I'm housing two male Ambilobe Panther Chameleons. This cage was built, or this vivarium I guess was built, with three things in mind. The first thing is I wanted to create an environment that my chameleons would thrive in and be healthy in. The second thing is I wanted to create a vivarium that my plants would also be healthy and thrive in. And finally, I wanted to make something that was nice looking, like a piece of furniture that I could put in my living room, and other people could appreciate the beauty of it when they come over to my house and such. And instead of just looking like a ratty old cage in the corner with some lizard stuck in it, I wanted something to be real pretty and nice to look at. So this vivarium, it stands, it's made entirely out of red oak. It stands 6.5 feet tall. The red oak has been stained and lacquered and actually coated with polyurethane to give it water protection. It's broken up into three sections. The top section here, from here up, is an enclosed areas for all the lighting equipment and some of the plumbing equipment. That's basically just to keep it out of view and kind of maintain the beauty of the cage itself and hide all the contraptions that go with it. The middle section is the actual cage itself. It's divided into two halves. There's a piece of wood that divides each side so the chameleons can have their solitary area. And the bottom half of it, or the bottom piece of it, is a built-in planter's box. Just real quick on the middle section of it, and I'll get into more detail later, but the front and the back of it is glass. The two sides are made out of aluminum screen, and the top of it is also aluminum screen to give it the aeration that they need so that they've got good healthy air. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move to the top and talk about my lighting system, and we'll go look at that. Okay, this is a view from the top of it. We talk about the lights here just real quick. I've got three basic types of lighting. In the back here I've got the ReptiSun 5.0 UVB bulbs to give the chameleons the ultraviolet light that they need. In the center here I have four T5 grow lights that are 46 inches long. They cover both sides of the terrarium, the vivarium, and this is basically to make sure my plants get enough light so that they're healthy and they can grow. And I have in the front two basking bulbs so that the chameleons can go underneath to warm up and bask in. I keep my basking bulbs on the opposite sides of my ultraviolet bulbs, and the reason for that is so that the chameleons can go to whatever they need at that time. If they need heat, they can go and get heat without getting the UV rays, or if they need UV rays and don't need heat, they can go and get that. I'm a firm believer in keeping that both on opposite sides. All the lights are on timers. These are not the complete lights. There's also lights on the inside that I'll talk about later. But there's one single cord that runs to an outlet, and it runs up here to this power strip. I was able to find a power strip that has individual switches for each plug, so I can manually control which lights are on or which lights are off at any given time. Also up here I've got a network for my misting system. I'm using a high output Mist King mist pump, and it runs to a 1/4 inch line and throughout the cage. This is the 1/4 inch line right here, and for each side of the cage it runs down each corner. So each cage has a misting line going down each corner, so a total of eight corners. Every corner has a misting line. I also have a fan system for keeping good aeration through there. These are my two fans right here. They're just fans that I purchased, personal fans that I purchased at Walmart. They were like $6 a piece. They're on a timer and they're on for about 4 hours a day to keep the air going through there, keep the cage dry, keep it cooled, make sure that there's no fungus or mold or anything growing in there, and keep good healthy air in there. So as you can see on the top, I do have the aluminum screen that I mentioned earlier on both sides of it here on the top. The aluminum screen is actually splined into the wood. here. I took a wood frame and I cut a groove in it with a table saw, and I splined the screen into the wood. So there's no excess metal parts or screen frames included in it. So with that pretty much covers the top of it here, and I'll move down to the middle section of the cage. Now here's the fun part of the terrarium, is where all the beauty is, of course, is the inside of it. Just real quick, the dimensions of this are 2 foot deep. Each side is 2 foot deep, 2 foot wide, and 4 foot tall. Total width of the cage is a little over 4 feet long with the legs on it. Like I mentioned before, there's glass doors in the front, glass in the back, and aluminum screen on either side. Real quick, we'll look at the aluminum screen here. As you can see, the aluminum screen is flushed up with the wood. It's been splined into the wood. I cut a groove with a table saw and put the screen in the wood, so there's no frames or any plastic frame holding devices. What I did for the doors is built the frame out of oak, and on the inside of it I cut a groove for the glass to sit in. I used 3/16 tempered glass so that I wouldn't have any shattering or anything like that, and mounted the glass in there with silicone caulking and some anchors in there to hold it in. I also routed in the hinges, if you can see that, routed in the hinges so that they sit flush with the wood. This makes it possible for the door to shut flushly, that way no insects or critters or whatever can get outside of the cage and into my house. The door shuts with magnets. Magnets are the latching mechanism, and I really like using this because it's really easy to get in and out, and does do the job of keeping it shut. I'll show you this right now how it shuts. As you can see, it opens and shuts real easily and real nice. On the inner parts of the cage, I have a few things going on here. I've got my misting system, and I also have some lights on the inside, which I'll talk about here in a second. The misting system, as I mentioned earlier, there are 8 misting nozzles in here. It goes down every corner, and there's 4 across the top in each corner, and then there's 4 around the midsection in each corner. And these misting parts, I actually didn't get these at mistking.com. I got these at a different place, and we'll take a look here real quick. It's got a nice little feature of it. These nozzles are able to move left and right, and they're also at a 45-degree angle, so I can turn them whichever direction that I want them to point, and water specific spots that I want watered. That's also real nice. As I mentioned just a minute ago, I've got lights on the inside. Now these are basically so that I can just add another visual aspect of it. If I want to show it off, I can light up the inside of the cage with those lights. They're 46-inch glow lights, and they're wired into the same system, and I can control them on top, like I mentioned earlier, with a power strip. And they're just basically when I want to show it off. And I'll do a little demonstration here and show you how that works. Lights off. Lights on. And you would think that the misting system would short out the lights, but I actually have it pointed so that it doesn't actually miss the lights. And they've gotten wet before, and really doesn't seem to bother them. The wood used as a climbing apparatus in this cage is made entirely out of grapevine. I didn't go to a reptile show and spend $100 a piece for pieces of grape wood. Instead, I found a winery living in Central California. It's not too hard to find wineries around here, and they tear out their vines after every 10 to 15 years or so, and they basically have to throw the wood away or get rid of it somehow, so they give it away for free. So I picked up a whole pile of this grape wood, and I pressure washed it to get the bark off of it, and after I pressure washed it, I sandblasted it, which adds that really nice color to it. And I took the grapevine and I anchored it at the bottom. I anchored it into anchors that I've got underneath the soil down there, and they're bolted in. So they're very sturdy and put in place. Now they can wiggle just a little bit, but they are very sturdy. Here's another key factor that I would like to talk about and point out is the feeder dishes that I use for my chameleons. I don't let insects go throughout the cage because a lot of times they find themselves hidden and they don't get eaten. And if you have too many insects in there, they tend to climb on your chameleons and chew on them at night. I don't feed crickets or very rarely feed crickets. The main reason for that is crickets have a tendency to get all over the place, and they always find their way out of the cage and end up somewhere underneath the refrigerator, and then they start chirping, and then they start annoying your wife, and then you're in all kinds of trouble. So I've moved to staple feeders with dubia roaches and superworms, which the chameleons absolutely love both of them. I gut load both of them. But the nice thing about superworms and dubia roaches is you can pretty much keep them isolated where they need to be. Now this feeder dish is something that I came up with, and I've never seen anybody else use anything like this, but I highly recommend a system just like this. As you can see, it's removable, and it's made out of a ceramic bowl, which I bought from Walmart. It has very slick sides, so superworms and dubia roaches can't crawl out of it. I took it and I siliconed it to a piece of 2x2 and drilled some holes in it and stuck a 1/4-inch steel dowel through it. And then I drilled holes in the grapevine wood so that it sits right in there, and I'm able to remove it or put it in, take it out whenever I want to. It's sturdy enough that the chameleon can climb all over it. And on the inside of it, this is the most important part, is I took a stick and I siliconed it to the center of it, pointing straight up. And this makes it so that the insects in the bowl are able to climb up and down the stick, which they prefer to do instead of sit at the bottom of the bowl. They climb up and down the stick and make themselves more appealing as food items for the chameleons. A lot of people use feeder cups. When you use feeder cups, you've got all your bugs at the bottom of the cup, and when the chameleon eats them, they pick up bug feces and whatever else. And plus, they're just not very appealing. Your chameleons aren't going to go down there and dig in the bucket unless they know, or the feeder cup unless they know to do it. So this puts it right up there where they can see it, and they can't escape out of it, and they climb up and down the stick and make themselves real appealing. I'll talk about the plants a little bit. I've got several different types of plants in here. The ones that you can see all over the grapevine wood are air plants. I apologize, but I do not know exactly what type of plants they are. I purchased them as a whole lot of a bunch of plants at once, and they just sent me whatever they were, and I really don't know what they are. But right now they're fastened down with a fishing line and some with staples and or both. And over time, they're supposed to root themselves into the wood and fasten themselves to the wood. But right now, they just add a nice visual decor. On the lower part of the cage here, you can see that I've gone with a bit of an assortment of plants. I have a ficus tree in the middle there, which I expect should be growing at a decent rate to fill up the majority of the terrarium. I also have, as everybody else does, golden pothos vines, which are impossible to kill and do a great job of filling your cage. There's also a few bromeliads and some smaller ferns and some plants that I picked up from terrarium supply place, but these are what really add a lot of beauty to the cage and the terrarium. And we'll go ahead and talk about the soil, which in my opinion, and which is fact, I believe is one of your most important parts of the health of your plants. I've run into a lot of challenges with keeping plants alive in my vivariums, and the main reason for this is because chameleons require a decent amount of water. With misting systems, your water tends to be a little bit too much for the plants that drip down to the bottom, make your soil very soggy, and end up choking out your plants. They get root rot and they die. So I've made a few adjustments to my soils, and so far they seem to be doing real well. when I had this issue with plants dying, I went to a grow store and told them what my situation was, and I knew the cause of it was overwatering. So I talked to them about some alternatives, and they recommended a potting soil, which I'm using right now. It's called Happy Frog, and you can buy it at a lot of grow stores. And but the main thing to this is what I've added to the potting soil, and it's a product. It's called Growstone, and this is it right here. It's made from recycled glass. They basically grind up glass, which is sand, and they powder it and add a foaming agent to it and kiln it to make these little rocks. These little rocks are incredibly light. They don't weigh anything. If you throw them in water, they'll actually float. And they come in various sizes. There's the larger size, and then there's the smaller sizes. Whoops. There it is. The larger size and the smaller sizes. So what I did is I took my Happy Frog potting soil and I mixed in 60% potting soil and 40% of these grow stones to give it more draining. Now when I first watered this, the potting box here on the bottom, the planter's box, is 12 inches deep and 2 foot by 2 foot, so it's a pretty good volume. With the 8 nozzles, I turned on the misting system and I watered it for about a minute and a half, and then it started draining, which surprised me because most soils you'd have to water a significant amount of time with nozzles to get it to start draining. So it tells me already, and what I've seen with it, this is draining incredibly well. And also I've gone in and tested the moisture of the soil, and it's not wet, it's not damp, but you can tell there's moisture in it, which is ideal for plants to grow and get the aeration that they need in there. So I would highly recommend this Growstone. I've seen a lot of questions on the forums about overwatering plants, or how do I keep from overwatering, and there's other products out there that people have used, but this Growstone, it's new. A lot of people don't know about it yet. It's not been around for too awfully long, and in the vivarium world, I've never seen it, but I would highly recommend it. It seems to be doing incredibly well. The last part of my vivarium that I want to talk about is the planting box and the draining system. As I mentioned earlier, it's 12 inches deep, and at the bottom of this, on the inside of this oak paneling, it's actually oak wood, not paneling, but there's slats cut in it, and pieces of plywood at the bottom to support the soil, with a whole bunch of holes drilled in it and coated with polyurethane to give it water protection from the water that it's going to be seeing. At the bottom of that, underneath that, I left about 1.5 inches on the bottom, and with that 1.5 inches is what I used to make my draining system. There are some pictures I'll have on the link, but what I did basically is I cut a groove, and I started from 1.5 inches off the bottom on one side, and I cut a groove with a skill saw all the way down to about 2/3 of the way down. I angled it down and came out the bottom. So there's a slot cut at an angle across there 2/3 down. Then from the opposite side, I started 1.5 inches above here, and I cut another angle from the other side. And what I did is I took silicone caulking and some plastic that I found in the bathroom department of Home Depot, and I cut that plastic to fit flush in that groove, and I set it in with silicone caulking. And so what I have is a piece of plastic at one angle going down here, siliconed in, and it's about 1/8 inch plastic. It's not like real thin plastic. It's durable stuff. And then on the opposite side, I've got the other piece of plastic, which is overlapping the first piece of plastic. So basically, all the water from this side, this 2/3, drains down here and out, and then on this side, from this 1/3, drains on top of the other piece and then out in the same spot. And down here, I have my water catch, which this is from about a week of watering. As you can see, there's really not much water in there, which is a good sign. That means I'm not over-watering it too much, but I am watering enough that my chameleons are getting plenty to drink. Here's my Mist King mist system. It's the basic Mist King system, and all I've really used for is a couple of connections to connect into the 1/4 inch hose and the pump, and that's a high output pump, and the timer for it, which is nice because you can get it down to the second. Everything else is bought from various other places. But what I did is I took my 5-gallon bucket reservoir put a lid on it and cut a hole in it so that I could keep a deep rock water jug on top of it. And it just kind of makes it easier so you don't have to refill your water so frequently with the extra deep rock jug on top of it. And my hose comes out of the bucket and goes to a T, and one of it runs to this pump and to my terrarium here on the right, and then I have an older one that I built where I'm housing my females right now, and there's a pump on the other end for that. So both pumps are running off the same reservoir, which basically saves space. For this one here, the one that I'm talking about today, this Vivarium, the 1/4-inch hose runs up through the soil and up to the top and through the whole network that I showed earlier to all the nozzles. Now I'll just do a real quick demonstration of the misting system in action and how it works. I'll go ahead and turn it on manually. Get a closer look here. There's one side, misting nozzles misting from everywhere. And then the opposite side. I turn on my misting system for 45 seconds for 4 times a day. That's just enough for each of the plants to get a little bit of water that are on the grapevine, the air plants, and also to wet the leaves of all the other plants. This gives a chameleon something to drink all the time throughout the day. If you overwater, large amounts of water will be dripping down from your plants into your soil. And at this point, I keep it so just a little bit of it drops down, just enough to dampen the soil just barely. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's basically little bits of water on those leaves. While I'm making this video, I thought I'd just show you one of my older terrariums that I built. It does have a planter's box in it. It's all aluminum screen. This is where I house my females right now. Behind here I've got a female who, oh, there she is. She should be laying eggs any day from now, so I've got her covered up in privacy. But you know, as you can see, the visual aspect of this one is not quite what that one is, with all the frames and the lights above and all the stuff going on below, the draining system. So I built this originally and I wanted to improve on it and make it look nice, so that was the reason for building the second one. The last thing I want to talk about is basically what this is all about, which is my chameleons, and I'll just show them briefly. There's a male Ambilobe there, and he is from Camouflage Creations. I've had him for about a year and 2 months now, and he's on the shot right now. And on the other side here, I also have another male Ambilobe. He's about 6 months old, but he's not fully colored. He'll color up nicely. And here's also an example of that feeder cup and how the worms climb up and down it. He might be going for one right now. Well, that's it. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me, and I'd be happy to answer any of them. But that's my completed project.